very ethnic town, lots of ethnic neighborhoods. I don't know if you can talk anything about that, like in terms of, sort of the different neighborhoods or the different ethnic groups, whether there was any conflict between them or...
No, when I was talking about the Eastern European kind of wave coming into the employment ranks, they had some issues with housing. So they were the ones that were coming in and basically having to do what they were told because they didn't know much of the language. And so the trainers were giving them a lot of hard things to do, and they didn't know anything about unions, and they couldn't learn because they didn't know the language. So unions were a real sore spot with everybody because the guys that wanted it could never get the numbers because it was such a diverse worker population, and you couldn't make that universal message for some reason.
Did they have much of a union movement in the...
It was little bubbles here and there. They, like I said, they worked about 12 hours a day as a rule from 1880 until 1923. So that's a long time that's when U.S. Steel instituted the 8-hour workday. But that was after at least 2 major national strikes. 1901, when they first took over the Joliet plant, there was a national strike, and our guys just kind of sat back and watched what happened because they were just getting hired. And then in 1919, right after World War I, the big wave of work is starting to fall off now that the war is over, and so they said, you know what, now's the time before we get unemployed again or the roller coaster hits bottom, let's ask for things now. And so they made a big, powerful strike then.
Was that when the 8-hour day started?
No, that's the funny thing is the strike got over the same year, 1919, but the company didn't want to bend, and so 1923, 4 years later, is when they actually brought it in to the system. So I always find the timing of that really unique. As far as housing goes, one of the things you can find on city directories, and we have a couple maps too, is if you didn't make a lot of money, you lived closer to the plant. Because it was a 24/7 operation, and so the exhaust coming out of this, big freaking skyline was literally dumping all the solid material close, and then all the smoke and stuff was just kind of drifting in the wind. So all the houses within about a half a mile of the plant were going for dirt cheap, but if you're getting dirt cheap wages, that's the only place you can afford. And so a lot of the Eastern European folks were living right under the smokestacks with the noise and the light and the pollution. And the more you made, the farther and farther from the plant you got. And it's physically showing up on the city directories.
Did the steel companies have any sort of company town set up where people had to buy from stores, certain stores? I know that Pullman did that up in Chicago. I wasn't sure if...
There's a town out east, I think in West Virginia, Matewan. It's a great movie about it. But that was one of those places where they literally had a company store and company houses, and you had to pay a certain percentage to use those things because that was the only outlet you had. So that was the situation when they were doing coal. I think that was strictly coal mining out there. But here, no. I know Pullman had a situation like that, but that was really a finished product, and so they wanted people there for a long term, and they really had a good community there. But as far as Joliet goes, like I said, it was a very diverse population. It was a very diverse set of byproducts in the industry that were here too. So they really couldn't control that kind of thing within a city government already established.